Recently, Debrat and her wife opened up about the strenuous process they had to go through when it came to choosing a sperm donor for their child to be. And what we find is that they felt pressure to choose a white sperm donor, not because they didn't want a black one, but because there wasn't enough sperm. And y'all know that it came out a couple of months back that there has been a shortage, that there has been a shortage of black sperm donors. And what's the byproduct of that? Black women who want black babies are put in situations where they don't necessarily have that option. And they went on to explain, out of the thousands of sperm donors, they only were able to narrow down to about 300 that fit Judy's or the wife's genetic profile, and there was only one that was the best match of all. But unfortunately, in the words of Debrat, he looked like Jiminy Cricket, and they didn't want nobody that looked ugly, y'all. So they had to choose a white man in order to get the kind of child that they wanted. What's interesting to me about this entire scenario is how they went out of their way to give Debrat and her wife the benefit of the doubt. If you look at the verbiage, if you look at the different articles that broke it down in detail, they definitely were very sympathetic to the struggle that it took and the reasons why two black women had to choose a non-black sperm donor. And listen, I'm not saying that their reasons are invalid. We do know that there is a shortage of black male sperm donors, but my point is, if the genders were swapped, and if it was two black gay men who for some reason chose the egg of a white woman, we already know they would be called all kinds of texturist, featurist, colorist. There would be no explanation. They wouldn't get away with saying that the woman looked like Jiminy Cricket, so therefore they had to choose a white woman to have the kids. That wouldn't work. They would be texturist, featurist, colorist. They'd hate their mama. And we all already know the shaming, the guilting that would happen. But it's so interesting to me that generally when we see black women do these kinds of different things, when we see a black woman, whether it's them dating out or in this case choosing to have a white sperm donor, there was never any talk about them being self-hating. We can assume that, look, there was legitimately a shortage. But my bigger point is that there is never a scenario, at least in mainstream media, where a black woman create mixed kids to create kids with the quote unquote Eurocentric features, and she will be judged as someone who was self-hating. That will absolutely never happen, or it hasn't happened up to this point. And this is kind of why I like to bring up these situations, and this is why sometimes I poke a bit at the interracial stuff, because we're very comfortable with the Uncle Toms, we're very comfortable with black men being coons. That narrative has been going on for decades, and look, we absolutely know what happened, but we're still not exactly comfortable acknowledging when the same ideology exists within the black female community. And we know it does because they talk about it constantly. But again, the way the article wrote this as a way to give them a benefit of the doubt, and essentially as a way to kind of create a case for how they had really no other option other than choosing a white man, that to me speaks to the pathology. That speaks to how we are so used to making excuses for the very things that we would turn around and judge men for. And to me, this is a prime example, an absolutely prime example. And notice the reason. Again, the only black men available look like Jiminy Cricket. If that is not an example of featureism, I don't know what is. And listen, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with choosing somebody based upon features, right? Like when I was looking for a husband, when I was in the dating market, I wanted a man that looked good. I ain't gonna sit there and lie to nobody. So I'm not saying that it's wrong as a woman to be attracted to handsome men. We know all women are. But what I am saying is that if women can do it, then we cannot be surprised if men do it too. There's this constant trend, I feel, to downplay men, to downplay the necessity of men as if they're just sperm donors. It's like men are more than a sperm donor machine that pumps out sperm at the whim of the necessity of women. Like, they're actually humans. They actually have intrinsic value, and actually they are incredibly important to the overall well-being of kids. And so I think if we continue to have a culture that pushes that pushes fatherlessness as if it's normal, as if it's okay, and as if it's just another option, I don't think we're going to see good results, because God didn't create it like that. God created man and woman. Man and woman are needed to create a child. So therefore, men and women are needed to raise that child to their full potential, to their full capacity. I firmly believe this. And so what's interesting about this setup is that I think we're going to continue to see this. I think we're going to continue to see, lesbian couples use sperm donors to create kids, which in some way is also pushing this narrative of fatherlessness and men not really needing to be there, and men not being needed in order to raise a healthy, functional child. And I do not hold the opinion that that is healthy, because I believe it is the father. I believe God created the father to help establish a sense of identity in the kid. And when fathers are not in the home, it is very traumatizing when the kid, and even when fathers are in the home, but they are broken and they are maybe emotionally available or abusive, it is traumatizing for the kids. But nevertheless, that does not change the important role that fathers have in the child's life. Culture isn't going to tell you this. They're going to tell you, look, do whatever you want. Gender doesn't matter. Binary doesn't matter. What does it matter? As long as there's love in the home. And I understand logically that that would make sense, but I don't believe that is the way that God actually created the world to function. I think when we are operating outside of God's intended purpose for us, even if things may feel good or they may seem nice in the moment or they may even make sense, usually somewhere down the line, things start to malfunction. And we have yet to really see the results of a society where there are two-parent households, but they're still fatherless. What is that going to look like? But what do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know. Leave your questions, comments, concerns in the comment section below. Thank you so much for listening if you've gotten this far, and we'll talk later. Bye.